we can permanently resolve the emotion felt. And this resolution of the emotion happens within seconds.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 133. Today we're talking about turning on your emotional healing superpower. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clarkfield's Mindful Mama mentor. I coach overstressed moms on how to cultivate calm in their daily lives and to create more peace and cooperation with their families. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting course, coming soon. And I'm the mom of 2 girls who challenge me every day to hone my craft. Welcome back, dear listener. I'm so glad you're here, or welcome if you're brand new to the Mindful Mama podcast. I am so excited for you to be here for this conversation because in just a moment, I'm going to be sitting down with Cedric Bertelli talking about the possibility of resolving emotional difficulties in ourselves and our children permanently. So Cedric Bertelli is an expert in emotional regulation and the first and only person certified to teach this revolutionary emotional healing technique called Tipi in the United States. It's you'll hear all about it, and it's really fascinating interview. And you're gonna find out as we sit down and talk to him, you're gonna find out why we may not need to know why we're feeling difficult emotions or even where it's coming from to heal it. And you'll hear about the natural capacity to heal that is available in all of us. And you're going to hear that I invited Cedric to test this out on me. And at the very end of this interview, I'm going to give you my review about what happened for me when I tried TIPI. So this is going to be a really powerful interview. First, let me quickly let you know that the Mindful Parenting course, if you're listening in real time, is open for enrollment right now. And you can join at mindfulparentingcourse.com. It's so much more than just an 8-week course. In fact, we give you a whole year of support, but it can transform your life with your family and your partner by helping you become grounded and calm, step-by-step techniques to help you really cultivate that in yourself with a whole group of other people. And then the tools to then what to say to your kids to actually cultivate willing cooperation. I know it sounds crazy. I promise it's possible. It's possible for you to really transform things. So I invite you to check that out at mindfulparentingcourse.com. And now, join me at the table as I talk to Cedric Bertelli. Cedric, welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. I'm so glad you could make it today.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
So I'm really excited because one of the things that I teach, mindful parenting course, and I teach a lot about taking care of difficult feelings. And I feel like almost every single problem that's going on in the world today can be traced back to people being completely unable to take care of their difficult feelings. We just either like stuff it down or we go eat cookies or drink or something, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. Unfortunately, I want to say, yes, you're absolutely right.
I know it's sad. And so you're going to share with us this way of taking care of difficult feelings I'm so excited about. But before we go on, I'm stumbling over the name. Why is it called Tipi?
That's exactly the name that I asked my boss when I started, especially when I started to bring this to the US. The name wasn't helpful, as you can imagine. The reason is it's really silly. When Luc Nicon, the man who created TP, is a French researcher, published his study, the research behind this work, he couldn't find a name, really. I mean, he was struggling finding a name. He wasn't inspired. And he looked over his window And here he had view on the garden, and in the garden was the tipi that he bought for his two kids for the past Christmas. It's a true story. So he just wrote TIPI and found a name, a word that fits every single one of the letter. So it's a French acronym for
Oh.
Technique d'identification sensorielle des peurs inconscientes.
I knew it had to have a French name. I was like, this has to be some French acronym. Okay, great.
Yes, it's the French acronym, but the birth of the acronym, so to speak, is pretty funny.
That's so hilarious. So now the listener, I'm sure, is like, what are they talking about? So please go ahead and tell us what is Tipi, and of course I want to hear your story about how you got involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, TP is a research program that originated in France. Let me know, by the way, if my accent is too thick, and I will try to speak slower.
Okay.
So it originated in France, and the creator of TP is a French researcher, in education and behavioral sciences. His name is Luc Nicon. And basically, Luc Nicon is recognized for two main discoveries in Western Europe. The main one being that he was able to isolate through research, through study, a natural physiological capacity for emotional regulation. Basically, he was able to demonstrate that from a point of emotion, when someone is feeling an emotion, everything is triggered in the brain, in the body, to resolve permanently and spontaneously this emotional difficulty. Basically, when we feel an emotion, a stress, anxiety, anger, by doing a very simple process that actually allows the body to do its work, to do its natural work, we can permanently resolve the emotion felt. And this resolution of the emotion happens within seconds. Wow. So from the understanding of how the brain works and how this natural capacity is available to all of us, we created several protocols. A protocol specifically for kids from 2 years old to 9 years old that I am teaching to parents and to educators. Here in San Francisco, that's where I am, we're going to have 80 special ed teachers trained to this protocol by the end of 2019.
Wow.
And a bunch of parents. Then we have a protocol for adults in crisis. Basically, how you can help someone, an adult, who is in an emotional crisis, how you can calm the person down and resolve the difficulty. And finally, there's a third protocol that we are applying in sessions, meaning that somebody meaning 9 years old or older has an emotional pattern that they would like to resolve. Well, through this last protocol, we're able to re-trigger the emotion very quickly, very specifically, and we're able to use this natural capacity for emotional regulation. Most of the time, when we do a session, one session for the resolution of a pattern is enough.
Wow.
I know it sounds crazy.
It does sound a little crazy.
Yeah. but I know that you do mindfulness, and I don't want to say it's similar because it's not, but you do understand the power of the body. And the body has an amazing ability, capacity, plasticity for healing. And really the key here is, like, we have been told a lot of things about emotions. Our emotions are complicated, how we need to control them, how we need to deal with them for a lifetime or find a way to cope with them. The fact of the matter is that the body has the capacity to resolve them once and for all. It's not more weird than if you cut your finger in the kitchen while cooking. Well, your body is going to heal after a few days. The brain is going to send whatever message need to be sent to the body to get the flesh and skin to recover. It is exactly the same principle for the brain.
Well, hold on a second, Cedric. But when you say for once and for all, when we cut our skin,
Mhm.
This doesn't make us immune to all skin cuts forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. However, the cut that you've done, once it's recovered,
Mm-hmm.
once it's healed, it's
Mm-hmm.
healed. It's not going to, once the flesh is completely healed, it's not going to reopen. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you can cut yourself again. Of course, you can break again another leg or an ankle. Yeah, we have several emotions. Yes, of course. But we can regulate our emotion per emotion, as long as we are aware of them.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what you're saying is Tipi helps us to completely, like, if something happens, we have a trauma, we have something upsetting happen, we can completely heal and recover from that emotion in that moment. But you're not saying that we're never going to feel upset or angry or whatever again, that it's just that that same stuff is not going to come up, which is really interesting because when I talk to parents, like when we talk about how we are being reactive to our kids, for instance, a lot of times it's stuff from when we were a child that's kind of causing that reactivity, right? So you're saying that you'd heal that event and then maybe even have the capacity or the ability now to know how to heal other events and things like that really completely fully as they come along.
It's a bit more than that, really. I saw some of the work that you've done, and you talk about that a lot in the sense that the only way we can change the relationship with the kids, really, or what's going on in the world, is the way to change ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what I'm saying is, let's say that you have a pattern. For example, in the morning, when my daughter cannot choose between a red sneaker and a white sneaker, and we're late to go to school, that drives me absolutely nuts. That's an example. That's not true, but that can happen, right?
Sure.
And every morning she doesn't know the red or the white, and I'm like, that's not good. That's not that difficult, honey. Just pick one because we're late now. We gotta go. Anyway, if that's a pattern that I'm getting anxious or angry if my child is not able to choose between the two sneakers, if I regulate
Mm-hmm.
this anger will not come back. If I had a trauma in my life, let's take, for example, I know it's difficult to digest. I know. Let's say something happened in my life. I've been abused as a child or as a teenager. The abuse, I will never be able to regulate. That happened. That's a fact. That's a memory. Nothing can be done with that, unfortunately. However, whatever the impact of the trauma is in the person's life today, that can be regulated if the person is, for example, not able to be intimate with a partner or is afraid to come out late at night. The emotion felt today can actually be regulated.
Hunter here. I just want to interrupt this conversation for just a minute to tell you about some exciting things we have coming up. Are you frustrated with parenting? Do you want to practice conscious, compassionate parenting, but you don't know how? It's not easy, and there's no roadmap for this. Until now. I'm Hunter Clark Fields, creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I know how frustrating it is because I've been there. I struggled as a young mom, and when I found myself yelling and triggered by my child, I knew there had to be a better way, and there is. Mindful parenting is different from other parenting trainings. They don't tell you that all of that good advice is as good as useless when our internal stress response is triggered. Mindful parenting teaches you research-based tools and practices to reduce your stress response so that you can respond rather than react. And it teaches you exactly what to say so that you can create willing cooperation from your child. You can learn more and enroll at mindfulparentingcourse.com, and you can join us for a free live training coming up soon where you'll learn why your kids don't listen to you, how your brain undermines your parenting, and how to create cooperative kids without losing your temper. Sign up now at mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. That's mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. I'll see you there. Wow, this is really cool. How does this work? So you're saying Our bodies have this natural capacity to regulate emotions, to permanently resolve these emotions felt. Can you take us a little deeper into how do you do that in sessions? Like say you're re-triggering somebody's emotions. Can you take us a little deeper into how that looks? Obviously, we're not there at that moment, but maybe you can tell us a little more about that.
For example, Hunter, how do you know that you're anxious?
I feel it in my body, my
Yeah.
throat, and my jaw.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. The way that emotion work in our body, it doesn't matter how old we are, the way that emotion works physiologically, neurobiologically in the body is first through a set of physical sensations. And when our neocortex, our cognitive brain cannot stop those sensations, that's when an emotion exists.
Mm.
Those sensations are triggered by a part of the brain called the limbic system. But the limbic system sends a signal, and there is a repercussion on our muscles and endocrine system. Once the limbic system sends a signal and get our physical sensations to react, nothing can stop it. Our intellect, our reasoning mind cannot stop those physical sensations. The limbic system think that we're in danger, send a signal through sensations. Once the sensations are triggered, they cannot be overruled by our intellect. Okay.
Mm.
So basically, our emotional responses are stored in this part of the brain called the limbic system.
Mm-hmm.
The only way the limbic system can communicate to our awareness that it thinks that we are in danger, it is through physical sensations. Those physical sensations that we feel during an emotion create a direct and clear path or a direct and clean bridge to the origin of the emotional difficulty. And through following those physical sensations present during an emotion, without trying to control them through breathing or stretching or anything else, but simply by consciously following those physical sensations as they evolve in our body when we feel an emotion, it is simply enough to allow the brain to integrate an information that was up until then blocked or trapped. My work is extremely simple, and it is a lot about unlearning what we have been taught for years and years than to learn anything. When we talk about a natural capacity, we mean a natural capacity. The thing is, we have other natural capacities. Sleeping is a natural capacity. Digesting is a natural capacity. And we don't really have any way to prevent the body to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
However, when we have an emotion, for example, anger, well, instead of being in tune with the body and letting the body heal itself, regulate it completely, well, we can scream, or we don't like the sensations, so we repress them, we try to control them, but at no point we let the body do its natural process. And that's the problem.
Mm.
So the work is simplistic, but it is so powerful, efficient, and radical. And everybody can do it on themselves.
Wow. It's really fascinating because I think a lot about human beings and how our consciousness and our brains get in our way and cause ourselves some suffering in many ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of
Yes.
those ways I think about is that, it's like we have a book on our bookshelf that's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. I think it's called, but I think it's about animals in the safari. Like, for instance, a zebra might get chased by a lion and have a limbic system reaction where they're in fight or flight or freeze, and they're escaping for their life, and then they just shake it off and they chill out and eat some grass, and there's no big deal. It's like they're just done. Like they're not reliving a trauma from that instance. Yet, because of our consciousness and things like that, we kind of do. And the other thing that's really interesting to me about this is a lot of what we teach. What I teach in mindful parenting is about this sort of about feeling your feelings in your body, like really going into your body and feeling your feelings. I mean, this is what a lot of Buddhist teachers teach, a lot of mindfulness teachers teach, is about dropping into the sensations, feeling the sensations. And of course, there's that saying, like, what you resist persists, and us resisting our sensations, kind of what you're saying is really kind of taking this to just sort of a further level, right? Where you're saying, like, if we as we fully immerse ourselves in the physical sensation of the feeling. Well, sometimes I say, Cedric, that like our emotions are kind of like toddlers. Like they really need to be seen and heard and felt, right? Like they need to be acknowledged. And this is kind of what you're saying here too.
I've been reading a lot of Buddhist philosophy as well, and you take the Power of Now, for example, from Eckhart Tolle, or The Letting Go by David Hawkins. I think what Luc Nicon was able to do is to bring this theory, because it's all stay very theoretical if you think about it, to something very human and incarnated. You're absolutely right. There is only few things that can prevent this natural capacity of not working when we do it on ourselves, by ourselves. I can tell you what can prevent this natural capacity to not do its work, basically. There's no secret. Basically, when you feel, the key first is you got to do that when you feel the emotion, when the emotion is in you, juicy, active. If you wait too long, it's not going to be available. The natural capacity is available when you feel the emotion, and that's when the window of opportunity is open. So when you feel the emotion, what you got to do is to close your eyes. To close your eyes, to take a break from whatever triggers you. To close your eyes, to make sure you feel you're in a place when you can actually close your eyes at peace. I mean, you don't want to be disturbed by something else or somebody else, or you don't want to feel in danger. So if you feel in danger and you don't feel like you can close your eyes right here and right then, maybe because you're having an argument with your husband and you don't feel okay to close your eyes right there, remove yourself from the situation and go to the bathroom, for example, lock the door, close your eyes. Then you're gonna have to pay attention to your physical sensations. Not only one sensation, that's not gonna work. Pay attention to 2 to 3 physical sensations you feel in your body. For example, your throat, your belly, and your legs being weak. Whatever are the 2 or 3 sensations the most present in you, pay attention to those. Remember, if you feel an emotion, it is because you're having physical sensations. So of course, when we have an emotion and we pay attention to the sensations, we're going to feel physical sensations. It is because they are there that we feel an emotion. So we feel an emotion, we close our eyes, we pay attention to 2 to 3 sensations in our body. And at this point, we're going to have to let the sensations evolve. The sensations are not going to stay static. They can't. They're going to start to move around in the body. The intensity might vary. The place might change. Here, the key point is to be able to observe those sensations, even if they're uncomfortable, without acting on them whatsoever. That means no deep breathing, no breathing at all. If you feel like you're going to be asphyxiated, just let yourself be asphyxiated. Your body is going to kick in whenever it's time. No stretch, no mental positive thinking, for example, if you don't feel no. Total surrender to the 2 or 3 sensations that came up to your mind at first, and observe with curiosity what's happening inside. This evolution of the sensation will take between 2 seconds and 60 seconds, never more. If it takes longer, it's because we've done something that we're not supposed to do. Once you feel calm, it will be very obvious to you. Once you feel calm, you can open your eyes. And that's pretty much it.
Wow.
So when we do session with kids, young kids cannot do that on themselves right away. So we basically teach the parents or the educators, when the kid is in a crisis, how the kid can become in touch with his physical sensation very simply, very instinctively, without any words almost. And how we can follow the sensations. For a kid, the longest self-regulation for a kid is 30 seconds max, because they're so in touch with what's happening inside once you connect them to it. Does it work every time? No. Sometimes the adult is going to be triggered and the kid is not going to want to do it. Sometimes the kid, doesn't really want to let go of the emotion. It's like everything. You got to practice. And for yourself, it's the same thing.
Oh, I'm definitely going to try this. I'm so excited. Cedric!
Please do.
So I'm curious about Luc Nicon. How did do you know how he stumbled upon researching this? And I'm a little curious about that sort of initial research. Like, how did he stumble upon this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Luc was what we call in French a pedagogue. Basically, he was working for the French education system, for some professional sport federations, such as the Volleyball Federation, French Federation, things like that. And also working in companies to create new way to teach the staff or the managers. And it all started because he realized very quickly that some people had learning blockages. Like, they were not stupid, but for some things, they will not be able to understand new information or to apply new informations. And it was very obvious that it wasn't an intellectual problem, but it really was an emotional problem. When a kid has a hard time learning mathematics, most of the time, it's not because it doesn't have a brain for math. It's because there is an emotional blockage around mathematics. So what he did, it's all started by coincidence or by chance. One day, as he was working in a company and somebody was getting frustrated, he just asked the person, "What sensations are you feeling in your body right now?" And the guy told him some sensations in the body, and then he stayed silent for a little bit. And after a while, he looked at Luc and he said, "Well, okay, I can try to do this again." And whatever he was working on, he was able to apply the new information without any problem. So anyway, Luc became interested by this reaction, and he started to develop that by simply asking, when people couldn't learn anymore or were frustrated, to asking them what sensation they were feeling in their body. Then he went on to ask them to close their eyes, to describe the sensations, and almost every time afterwards, the person was able to do the work that he was supposed to do, or the kid was able to learn what he was supposed to learn. And not only for this one time, but the next day, he will not encounter any problem. And the next day, he will not encounter any problem for the same topic. So then he became really interested. And he decided to, study that and study what is happening and why it's happening. So he did a study from 2003 to 2007, where he did 300 cases of regulation on different things. He went from learning blockages to later on phobias, anxieties, depression, stresses, and understanding what is happening in the brain and where the emotions were coming from. You can find his work in 2 books. One is called Sensory Reliving. It's an ebook. And the main recap of the research is available on Amazon. It's called Tipi, T-I-P-I, Technique for the Sensory Identification of Unconscious Fears. And if you want me to tell you a bit more about the research, I can.
Well, I guess I have another question that's kind of popped into my mind, and I'm curious, and I know you've had so much experience with this yourself, but I'm curious about things like I'm thinking about my 8-year-old daughter, and I'm thinking about many humans, right? Which is that our emotions are triggered by our thoughts. Our emotions are triggered by the stories that we're telling ourselves in our head. Like my 8-year-old she has sadness triggered by the story she's telling in her head about the intentions of her older sister, know? So, would we be able to help a child like that if they're not, if they're not sort of conscious of what's going on, or if they're not sort of opting in to have everything feel better, but they're kind of continuing to sort of tell that story to themselves?
That's an absolutely great question. And the answer is yes, because emotions do not make any sense. The reason they really don't. And the reason is the limbic system do not make any sense. It reacts to things. There is no logic in the way the limbic system works. We don't need to know, and that's the beauty of this work. You don't need to know where the emotion is coming from or why you or a child is feeling an emotion. We don't need to know that. That's completely irrelevant. For a child, as we see that she's sad, for example, or anxious or angry, we can help her to let go of that without trying to understand where it's coming from, because most of the time, whatever reason we find on why we feel an emotion or another is not the reality of things. Most of the time is a reason that we like intellectually, that we associate with intellectually, that we make ours. But very often, that's not the truth. Very often, and that's what the main study of Luke is, we know now scientifically that we were born with about 90% of our emotion already in us, waiting to be triggered by life situation. So whatever we see as the cause of the emotion often is only a trigger of something that was already in us. So to answer your question, sorry that was a bit long, but to answer your question, it doesn't matter to know why we're feeling an emotion or if it makes sense or not.
I can see how this is so, like you're saying, that this is about unlearning what we have to learn, because we are such meaning making people, right? Like that is we want to know why this is and why this is, and
Yep.
And it often is a really fruitless question sometimes to understand, like, why is happening, and but actually just it's basically about like being very radically present with what is in the sort of physical reality, not in the stories we're telling ourselves in our head. And it is like, when you think about psychology and etc., all those things is like, oh well, maybe we can understand it through telling more and more and more and more and more stories about this thing. But actually it's so, yeah, I mean, I guess I really see that sort of the idea of unlearning what we think we know.
You're absolutely right. And psychology, coaching, I think it's absolutely great because it helps us to take responsibility for our pattern, to isolate our pattern and disassociate from them, to see a pattern as not being us, but being something in our life that we can actually heal. Now, you can talk for 30 years about an emotional problem and not being able to resolve it just because you can't. It has to go through the body. For me, regulating emotion, it's about like clearing the basement. You got to clear the basement. I mean, emotional regulation is not meditation. It's not yoga. It's not something that will take you to enlightenment. No, it's regulating and alleviating all those stuff that we accumulated in life, which sometimes we think are part of our personality, but they are not. They're not part of our essence. They're just stuff that came up and need to be dealt with.
So when you discovered Tipi because you were looking for help with your own emotional regulation, right?
Correct.
So what was your first experience like, and take us back there a little bit?
Yeah, I was doing something very different at the time. I was working for the Ritz-Carlton hotels. I was a director of the restaurants. I was managing the front of the house for them here in California. And I was dealing with a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety, but I always have been an anxious person. I mean, since kindergarten, I was very, very anxious. And so I've been looking all my life up until I was in my late 20s at the time. I was always looking to find a way to get better. So I went for psychotherapy, of course, and all this stuff. And as I had a big team working with me, I was always trying to be a better leader and observing how emotions were really shaping the workplace. Who can work with who can take order from management, who can deal with the customers. I mean, if you think about it, emotions, I mean, lead our lives, lead our teams, lead our families. Anyway,
yeah.
I was looking for things to get better myself, to feel better. And I was becoming a bit frustrated because I tried a lot of things. In California, God knows there's a lot of things about emotions, and and nothing was pragmatic. I mean, either way, it was asking a lot of work and constant work or a discipline or all that. And in my mind, it wasn't logical. There's something. I was always convinced on something more natural, more radical, had had to happen. I mean, we're human beings. We're human beings. We're not meant to carry anxiety, stress, anger. We're not meant for that. That kills us. That literally kills us. And that cut our intellectual ability, our strength. It's just not normal. We're not meant for that. I always was convinced of that. Anyway, I did some research in the US and in France, like I was always doing, to find something that will help me get better and help me being a better leader. And I usually looked really in the US, and this time I looked into France because I had enough about my job at the Ritz, and I was open at the time to go back to France. And I found this program called Tipi, and they were having a lot of media coverage because they were saying in 30 minutes, working with one of our trained specialists, you can resolve any kind of emotional difficulty permanently. So I became curious, skeptical, yes, but curious. And picked up my phone from San Francisco, and I did a session with one of those guys in France. I work on an anger that was coming, I want to say, on a daily basis for me. After the session, the anger didn't come back. Okay. So I became very interested. And at this time, I contacted back the guy for him to teach me how I can do the work on myself by myself, how I can regulate my own stuff. And he taught me we can teach that to people very easily. To really be trained in how to do it on yourself by yourself, it takes 2 hours. 1 hour to teach you in detail, and then another hour to collect your feedback and see, after you practice for a couple of weeks, if you had some difficulties, and giving you a few more information. And that's what he did with me. It took 2 hours. Once I learned how to do that, I was able to resolve 4 main emotions that I didn't want in my life anymore. And after resolving them, I left myself 6 months to see if they were coming back or not. In 6 months, they didn't come back. It's not that I was controlling them or trying to, no, they did not come back.
So your anger didn't come back, and anxiety,
anxiety, jealousy was another one. I was a pretty jealous guy. And then I had a low-grade depression that was making my life quite miserable. This latent thing that is always here, no matter what, this kind of stuff. And that's what I worked on at first. And anyway, when I saw that he didn't come back, I had enough of my job. So I contacted the program in France, and I said, hey, I don't know anything about emotions, sensory memory, or any of that, but I'm very much willing to learn. By the time I had read Luc Nicon's book, and I looked at all the stuff. And they said, yeah, join the program if you want to. So I quit my job and I went to France and studied with them. And I became what you call a practitioner, means I was doing sessions with people. And after a while, I asked if I could be trained to be a trainer, to be a teacher. And Luc said yes, and trained me. And then I came back to the States. And since 2011, I train therapists, coaches, educators to do this work with their clients and their patients.
Wow. Cool. It's fascinating to me that this is like, I feel like, I'm just kind of learning about this. Like, I want to know, like, is there more research in the works for this kind of thing?
But Luc is always in research. If you take the last book, Sensory Reliving, is linking his research to other main scientific research and discoveries to really get the main public to understand what's happening in the brain and how it works. That's quite fascinating. And yes, he's continued to research. Right now, he came up with a new protocol for psychosomatic issues and addiction. He came up with that at the end of, he didn't come up with that. He researched for a long time, and he put it out there in August last year. We're having great results with that as well. So there is a lot of research you can look at who go into the same vein. There's Rachel Yehuda, I believe she's in Cleveland, Ohio, Joseph Ledoux from New York. So it's several of them who are going through the same vein.
Oh, all right. Wow. So you're spreading the word, Cedric. You're kind of the spokesperson.
That's why I'm here in the States. Yeah, that's my job, and that's really my pleasure. It's quite an adventure, I tell you. It's thrilling. It's exciting. It's at times frustrating because you feel like you have a gift. You have like a treasure, and very often you want to share it. But because it is so simple, people are quick to dismiss it. And that's so human, you know? A kid will not do that. A kid don't dismiss it. He just take it and do it. But adult, we've been told so many things, you know? We've been told so many things. And even therapists, I would say, are the most difficult. It's most difficult for them to come to this work because they've done so much studies, you know? They spend so much time trying to learn the psychology. When you tell them, well, you know what? You can actually resolve emotions naturally, very quickly. It's difficult for them to hear often.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine. It's interesting because I'm feeling very, I kind of came into our conversation a little bit skeptical and a little bit hopeful, and I'm still feeling I think the tables have tipped more towards hopeful and further away from skeptical. And
Great.
so, dear listener, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll test it out. We'll test it out and let you know how it goes. Hunter's experience with Tipi. See what I can resolve. I've definitely got some anxieties to resolve, Cedric. They could be resolved in less than X number of seconds.
Yeah, absolutely, between 2 and 60 seconds. And if you want, I'd be very happy to let's find a time and I can give you the whole training. It's really an hour, right? And then we're gonna have to talk for 1 more hour to collect your feedback, so you know exactly how to do it. Because it is so simple that, as we said earlier, you're gonna have a couple of things to unlearn. That's why the training takes 2 times an hour. Because people need to understand what is in between each phases that we told the listener a bit earlier. You know.
So I'm curious about whether if someone has had, I guess you talk about things to unlearn, right? Like, we know that there's neural networks in the brain that have, deep grooves. The habit responses are really hard to change, and what you're talking about is sort of creating a new habit. And I'm curious about, have you found that people who have been attempting to be in the present moment as much as they can, like through mindfulness practice or anything like that, are able to sort of be with this a little bit more? I'm just curious about that because it seems so similar. I mean, like you're very much being, practicing radically to be in the present moment.
Yep. One of the main reasons we were able to get into the school system here in California is thanks to a mindfulness teacher. Her husband actually met me in an event and he told her about it. We met and she took the whole training program. So she's a mindfulness teacher in school. Mm-hmm. And so she started to talk to teachers about it, and they saw the result when she was doing it with the kids during sessions. And I don't know if people with mindfulness have an easier time than other people. Mm-hmm. It's possible, but it is a mindfulness teacher that really helped us to touch more people here in California.
Well, this is so exciting, Cedric. I'm really excited. Dear listener, I will go and check this out for you. I'll certainly report back on it, and maybe we'll see what happens. We'll have Cedric back and talk about my results. But yeah, this is really exciting. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on to the Mindful Mama podcast and talk to my audience about this. And I love it. So where can people find out more about you and more about Tipi?
Yeah, well, the best way is through my website. It is Cedric, Cedric, Bertelli, BERTELLI.com. And you can also go to the official Tipi website, which is tipi.pro, tipi.pro. In San Francisco, if some of your listeners are in the Bay Area or in Northern California, once a month, I propose a free training in 2 parts. So as we said, the first one is an hour and a half and the second one is an hour, where I teach people for free how to do this work on themselves by themselves. And the reason why we do that for free is because Luc is very autonomous about that. It's like he didn't discover anything. This natural capacity is available to all of us to use. It's not something technical. It's something we need to relearn. So that's why we offer that every month, free training. We have about 15 to 20 people every month to get trained from the Bay Area. And that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. So do not hesitate. You have the dates on the websites as well.
That's cool. Good for you, Bay Area listeners. You should definitely check that out. Again, thank you so much, Cedric. This has been really, really fascinating and lots of fun to talk to you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Hunter, and thank you for all you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. So, how did it go for me? Is that what you want to know? Well, I tested it. I met with Cedric and he taught me how to do TIPI as consultations over Skype. And I tested it out. And as you could hear in the conversation, it was really very similar to the mindfulness techniques that I use and teach in mindful parenting. But it really was powerful. It's kind of funny because you kind of think, oh my gosh, if I can resolve any emotions like that, I'm going to like rainbow sparkles are going to start shooting out my ears. It's not like that. You just kind of feel like, okay, I had that feeling and now it's done. And it really works. It really works. It's pretty awesome. And I'm really excited for this to hit the world and to open up our amazing natural capacity to heal. And so Cedric has been amazingly generous, and he has included a training session, video training session that we are going to include as a bonus when you join the Mindful Parenting course. So if you join us in the round in Mindful Parenting at mindfulparentingcourse.com, as a bonus, you are going to get the TIPI training, the TP training in be able to resolve your own emotional difficulties permanently for you. So this is really, really exciting. So thank you again so much for listening. I'm so glad you're here. Please share this conversation if it's been valuable for you. This one's pretty life-changing, and I've been sharing it a lot with my clients and with my friends. So very excited about the TIPI. So wishing you a beautiful week. I hope to see you in Mindful Parenting and we can connect. Otherwise, I've got my retreats coming up. I think I still have a couple spaces in both the California and the Costa Rica retreats as I record this. So maybe we can connect in person. That would be so cool. And wishing you a beautiful, peaceful week. My friend, thank you so much for listening. Namaste. Are you frustrated with parenting? Do you want to practice conscious, compassionate parenting, but you don't know how? It's not easy, and there's no roadmap for this. Until now. I'm Hunter Clark Fields, creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I know how frustrating it is because I've been there. I struggled as a young mom, and when I found myself yelling and triggered by my child, I knew there had to be a better way, and there is. Mindful parenting is different from other parenting trainings. They don't tell you that all of that good advice is as good as useless when our internal stress response is triggered. Mindful parenting teaches you research-based tools and practices to reduce your stress response so that you can respond rather than react. And it teaches you exactly what to say so that you can create willing cooperation from your child. You can learn more and enroll at mindfulparentingcourse.com, and you can join us for a free live training coming up soon where you'll learn why your kids don't listen to you, how your brain undermines your parenting, and how to create cooperative kids without losing your temper. Sign up now at mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. That's mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. I'll see you there.